Okay, so essentially what we're going to be finding is the vertex. There are some other characteristics along that you can find along the way while you're trying to find the vertex, but as long as you can find the vertex using just a calculator, then everything from there can be found using just the vertex. What was I going to say? But okay, so let me see. This PEP or this foldable right here, this is going to be the very first example goes along with the steps. All of your steps are going to be right here. They are in picture form. So if you have a question, make sure you refer to this first before coming to ask me. Okay. Now on the STAR test, all of your quadratic formulas, all of your quadratic equations are going to be here at the bottom. We are going to be learning vertex form this Wednesday. And the quadratic formula, we're going to be using that one probably next week sometime. Okay. But first thing is first, we need to go back over what is standard form for a quadratic equation, for a quadratic function. Standard form can be found in your formula chart. It's f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. I'm actually going to write it in the examples in the examples foldable. So you have two foldables, but write it down in the examples foldable. So standard form. F of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay. F of x is just no different than writing y equals, okay? But a lot of the times they've gotten in the habit of using f of x instead of y equals. We did discuss this, we did point it out. This last number actually represents one of the characteristics on your graph. What characteristic is that? Your starting point. Your starting point is another word for your y-intercept, your starting point. This one represents the y-intercept. So even if you're not, if you're given an equation and you have a number that's out there by itself, not attached to an x, not a coefficient of x or x squared, that is your y-intercept. But I will also show you how to find that using the calculator. Okay. First example, let me go back to my steps. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure all your terms are on the same side of the equation. Make sure every single term is on the same side of the equation. And in this case, what term do we need to move? (11x). Now 11x is currently a positive term. How do I move it back over? By subtracting. So we're going to subtract 11x. And we get 6x squared. And to make it similar, or to make it resemble standard form, I have to bring down the 11x next, minus 11x plus 3. Now 11 minus 11 on the right side of that equation is now what? 0. We made it equal to 0, but once again, it's no different than having that equals y. Y equals 6x squared minus 11x plus 3. Okay. Once you're done solving it or making sure that all of your terms are on the same side, you're going to put the equation into y equals. So we're going to go to the calculator, find y equals. And remember, because this is a calculator-based lesson, you need to make sure to tell me when you get lost as soon as you get lost. I don't want to know that you're lost when we're on step 11 and you're on step 2. So go to y equals. Everybody should be on this screen. Yes. I'm gonna want to see a lot of head nods today, okay? And then you're gonna type in your equation, 6x squared minus 11x. Too many 11s. That happens with this calculator all the time. I don't know why. And then what? Plus 3. If it's in between, in the middle, it's minus. If it's in the middle, it's minus. If it's in the front, it's a negative, minus middle. Ready? All right, after you do that, where do we go? Next step is to press what? We're on step 3, zoom 6. We're on step 3, zoom 6. Zoom is that button right in the middle, and then press the number 6. You don't have to scroll down, just push the number. And what we're trying to see in this screen, it resets the screen to a standard 10 by 10 graph, -10, +10, -10, +10. And what we're trying to figure out is if you can see the vertex. Zoom is right in the middle. And then you press, so that means you may have put a negative instead of -11x. If you get error, you may have put a negative in here instead of a minus. If it's in the middle, it should be minus. Now, after I press zoom 6, if you can see the vertex, you're good to go. So we're trying to see if we can see, we're trying to make sure we can see the vertex. If you have a parabola that's right side up, that opens up, you're wanting to see if you can see the vertex, that point. Okay. If it's upside down, we're trying to make sure we can see this area, that point. You want to make sure you can see the highest or the lowest. That's your vertex. You got it, Hillary? Okay, so next step. Once you're able to check to see if you can see the vertex, step number 4, you're going to press what? Trace. Just simply press trace. Most of the time we press second trace, but just trace. And you're going to see this screen. Everybody see that? One thing that pops up is that equation that you put into the calculator. And then the bottom 2 numbers, what do those represent? Nope, not the X and the Y intercept. Just the Y intercept. It only represents that Y intercept. Now, just so we can match it up with our equation, let's write you can see that +3 right here that we had. That's our Y intercept. So you should have 3 as your Y intercept. And let's go ahead and write that into our examples page because we have found that Y intercept, 0, 3. The reason I separated it is so you don't have to keep going back and forth, like flipping the page between the steps and the problems. So I just want those side by side. And everybody look at your equation. We said that that number that's not a coefficient, any coefficient of X or X squared, that is our Y intercept as well. So you could either find it from the equation or you can press trace and there it is. Should be the first thing that pops up. Ready? All right. Next, let's go back to the steps. Once you write down that Y intercept, I want you guys to highlight this whole sentence because this is the one that everybody's been forgetting to do. Move that star as close as possible to the vertex. You're going to move it as close as possible to the vertex. Now you can only use the left and the right arrow. Only use left and right arrows. Only use left and right arrows. If you use up and down, it will remove you from the trace feature. Ready? So in this case, my vertex is over here on the right side. So I'm going to go to the right. Now, we talked about it on Friday, which axis, and on Thursday, which axis is responsible for determining the height of an object? The y-axis. The y-axis is the one that goes up and down. Up and down is your height. Give me the phone. I'm keeping it. You can pick it up in the office. So the y, so you're going to be looking at your y value. You're going to be looking at your y value. Now, the lowest that mine goes, see this -1.9? If I go back over, -2. -2 is bigger or lower than -1.9. So now I'm at the vertex. Everybody there? Head nods? Okay. Now that I am at the vertex, I can now press what? Second trace. I can press second trace. And you're going to match it up to those graphs. If we have a graph that looks like this, we're talking about having a minimum. If we have one that goes up high, it would have a maximum. So what are we going to press, 3 or 4? 3, it goes down low. So press 3. Now, does everybody's screen look like this? It should say left bound in the bottom left-hand corner. Yes? Okay. Angel? All right. Now, that means we are now in step number 7. Whenever you see that left bound question, what you're going to do is you're going to press the left arrow twice. I'm going to highlight twice. And then you're going to press enter once. Essentially what we're doing is we're going to the left side of the vertex, and then we're going to move to the right side. So let's press the left arrow twice. 1, 2, press enter once. And now that question is changed to right. Everybody see it? Okay. Now, when you see that question pop up, right bound, you're going to press the right arrow how many times? 4 times, and you're going to press enter twice this time. Right 4, twice enter. One, 2, 3, 4, enter twice. 1, 2. And it'll give you your vertex. It should say minimum. Everybody there? Did you get it? Good. Anybody need help? You got it? Let me see. Of course not, because we were too busy being on the phone, huh? So that is your minimum value. That's your minimum value. That is going to be your vertex. Now, everything else can be found, or all the other points can be found just using the vertex. Here, we're going to make ourselves a little key, and we're going to color code that key, and then we'll write the actual numbers on the other page. So your vertex should be given as an X and a Y value. Should be given as an ordered pair, as a point. Grab your yellow highlighter. X value. Your axis of symmetry should always start with X equals. It is a line of symmetry. Every line is described as an equation. That equation starts with X equals, as I've repeated multiple times. X equals what? The X value of the vertex. So those two should match up. Now, your maximum or your minimum, we talked about this Thursday and Friday, your minimum value, if they're asking specifically for a minimum or maximum value, they're asking specifically for the Y value of the vertex. The Y value of the vertex. Domain will always be all real numbers. If it's a table or if all you're given is an equation, it's going to be all real numbers. But if you can physically see a graph, obviously you have to check your open and closed circles. But anything that's not a physical graph, it's just going to be all real numbers. Range. For the range, you're also going to use that Y value. You're either going to place the Y value here or here, and I will show you how to determine that. If it's a minimum, your range is going to be written similar to this. If it's a maximum, it'll be written similar to that. But we will have examples of both. Ready? Everybody have this copied? So vertex. We got our points. Those points, or that point for the vertex was 0.91, negative 2.04. And I'm going to label my X and Y every time because that's what's going to help me determine where to put these numbers at. Let's start with the axis of symmetry. My axis of symmetry always starts with X equals. Now X is going to equal what value, what number? 0.91. Color code that. That 0.91 should match the X value of the vertex. And you could apply the same to a graph. So if you physically have a graph, if you have a graph in front of your face, you can find the vertex. It also works. With this vertex, did we have a maximum or a minimum value? We had a minimum. Now that minimum value, let's say, for example, they ask us to fill in a griddable. You can't put the whole ordered pair. The minimum value is which one? Negative 2.04. That goes along with the y value of the vertex. Those two should match up. The y value of the vertex. Now for your domain, domain will be what? It is your x values, but I just told you another page, all real numbers. It will always be all real numbers. Now I did have somebody ask, and it was a good question. They said, why is it all real numbers? When you see all real numbers, yes, it is your x values. What are you seeing at the ends of your parabola? Correct. You have infinites on both sides. That means we have arrows, right? So we're assuming that every single one of those is going to have arrows on both sides. My answer is all real numbers. Range is the one that's a little tricky. This one is for my what? Y values. Give me a moment. Y values, okay? Now we write those Y values in what order? From what to what? Least to greatest, and what were we writing on the notes? Yeah, on Friday. Minimum and maximum. Now for equations and tables, it's always going to be equal to, okay? Equations and tables always equal to and equal to, unless you have like open circles and whatnot. You have to have a physical graph for that. Now, because this negative 2.04 is a minimum value, where am I going to place this at? On the left or on the right side? On the left side where it says minimum, negative 2.04. That means that I have that negative 2.04 down here. So I can assume that the top is going to be what? Infinity. Because it's my minimum. So do I have to flip it? Yes or no? Yes. And we get y greater than or equal to negative 2.04. Now, can somebody say that out loud in sentence form for me? We forgot. Thank you. Greater than or. Correct. When we flipped it, it's like we moved that infinity symbol over to this side. So we start here, all real numbers, and we use this symbol, all real numbers greater than or equal to negative 2.04. All real numbers greater than or equal to negative 2.04. Everybody see that? Good. All right, let's try the next one. First thing you want to do with your equations is to make sure what? Step one, we're starting back over. What do you got to make sure? Are they on the same side? Yes, f of x is no different than writing y equals x negative x squared plus 6x minus 1. So yes, they are all on the same side. That means I can now go ahead and put that equation where? In y equals negative x squared plus 6x minus 1. All right, what do I press after this? Zoom 6. And what am I looking for? I'm checking to see if I can see what? If I can see the vertex, can I see it? Yes, you should be able to. So now I can press what? Now what do I press? Step 4. Trace. And the first thing that's going to pop up is what? Y-intercept. Let's write it down. 0, -1. And notice how this -1 corresponds with my equation as well. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead just before I forget. Is this a maximum or minimum? Maximum. So I'm going to go ahead and circle it because once I'm in second trace, that can be a little bit confusing. Maximum. But before I press second trace, we highlighted the whole sentence. What is step number, what is that? 5. We got to move the star. So let's move that star. How high can it go? Oh Lord, I went too far. So yeah, 7.99 is good. Then what do we press? Second trace. What number? 4. I see the word left. So I go how many times to the left? 1, 2, enter. How many times to the right? 1, 2, 3, 4, enter, enter. And there's my maximum, or there's my vertex. 2.99, that's close enough to 3. So we're just going to write it as 3/8. Don't forget to label your X and Y. That always helps. All right, axis of symmetry always starts as X equals. X equals what? 3. Make sure you color code that, highlight it. Should correspond, should match up. Are you not highlighting? Maximum. Our maximum value is what? The actual value is 8. Our Y value determines the height. Our Y axis determines the height. Domain will always be all real numbers. And the range is the one that's somewhat tricky. As long as you know how to write it, you should be okay. So minimum on the left, maximum on the right. So where is that 8 going to be? On the right side. And if 8 is on the right, what's going to be on the left? Infinity. Will I have to flip this? No. All right, somebody other than Ale, can you read that in sentence form? Less than or equal to 8. All real numbers right here, less than or equal to 8. Less than or equal to 8. Everybody good? Okay, let me know when you're ready. So first things first, I need to make sure what? That I need to move what? Okay, so how do I move it? Yep. Having that equal 0 is putting it in Y equals form. So we can go ahead and put this into our calculator. Okay. So let's go ahead and put that equation in. Y equals negative x squared minus 2x plus 15. All right. After I type that in, zoom 6. Can you see the vertex this time? No, you shouldn't be able to see the vertex. Now, in the very, very front page of your steps, it tells us what to do if we cannot see it. What do we do? Oh, that was, hold on, those are my, in the steps, correct. It does say press Zoom 3. One instruction that I forgot to include, you have to press enter as well. Oh no, press Zoom 6, press Zoom 6, and then start over. So I'm going to press Zoom 3, and I'm going to press enter 1 time. And now your graph should look like that. Can everybody see their vertex now? Okay, so what do I press next? Trace. And the first number that pops up is my y-intercept. My y-intercept. So 0, 15. Once again, there's my 15. All right. Now, before I actually try to find the vertex, I have to do what? Move to the vertex. And in this one, you should only have to move once to the right, left, not right. Now I can press what? Nope. Second, trace, what number? Second trace, or because it's a maximum, let me go ahead and circle maximum over here before I forget. All right. How many times to the left? 1, 2, enter once. How many times to the right? 1, 2, 3, 4, enter, enter. What is my maximum? Negative, my vertex is -1, 16. But yes, you answered that correctly. -1, 16, X and Y. Since Enrique already said it, my maximum value is 16. My maximum value is 16. Color code that. Your axis of symmetry always starts with x equals, and x equals what? -1. All right. Your domain will be all real numbers. And that 16 is going to go on what side of my range? On the right side, making the left side what? Infinity. Do I need to flip this one? So how do I write it in sentence form? All real numbers less than or equal to 16. All right, glue, let me see.